Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Rookie Card Collector 123 video. In today's episode, we're going to take a first look at some Negro League baseball cards that were produced during the existence of the Negro Leagues, both pre-Negro League, which was before 1920, and also during the Negro League era, which ran from 1920 through the 50s and into the early 60s. All the images that we're going to look at come from a guide or a book that I self-published back in 2014. The book is called Negro League Baseball Collectibles Guide. This is what the cover looks like. And basically the guide has two sections. It has the first section, which is all Negro League cards, and the second section, which is about 2/3 of the book, is all types of Negro League memorabilia, anything picturing a Negro League ball player. So that included original photographs, postcards, scorecards, programs, premiums, broadsides, which are advertising typically for Negro League games in the area. So all that is covered in here. I covered about 450 total different Negro League ball players. So everybody in here played at least one season in the Negro Leagues. And out of all the players that played for the 30 to 40 years of the Negro Leagues, I determined that these 450 were the most influential, the most significant players there. So a lot of there's some Hall of Famers, there's a lot of stars, and then there's a lot of more obscure players. But I had to cut off somewhere, so I went with this group here. Total in pictures or total images in the book, there's over 1,200 images, sorry, which includes all the cards pictured as well as all the memorabilia items. So lots of information in here. The back cover also has more images, mostly team images on the back. So my format for presenting the info here, each episode I'm going to do somewhere around 10 cards to 20 cards of Negro League players. As many of you probably know, there was never any Negro League baseball cards produced in the U.S. for Negro League teams or players. So all the cards we're going to look at were all produced when these players were playing winter ball, which was typically in the October to February time period in Latin America. Several Latin American countries hosted winter ball leagues, including Cuba, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Mexico, and the Dominican Republic would probably be the 5 most prominent. So all these issues would have been produced and distributed in those countries. So needless to say, getting cards from there over the years, going back to the earliest cards from the 1910 era, is not an easy task. They're extremely rare, very hard to find. With Major League Baseball recently adding the Negro League stats to the record books, it has generated a huge boom in interest for former Negro League players, especially the biggest stars like Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige, Buck Leonard, guys like that. So we're going to be able to take a look at the collectibles that all these guys have out there, starting with the cards. I've also already started a series on my channel, which is looking at the memorabilia items, the photographs, the postcards, all the other stuff. So we're going to do the cards. We're going to start alphabetically with the player last name, A. And the way I'm going to do it is a lot of these names are not going to be real familiar, especially the more obscure players. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide a brief bio information history on the ball player that I'm going to show you cards of. Do that first, and then go to my guide and show you pictures of whatever cards they had produced during their playing days, and then continue on with the next player. We'll start with A, we'll eventually go all the way through Z. And so you'll get to see and get to be introduced to many players, many card sets, and hopefully a lot of useful information. There's some values in my guide, which were, again, I did this back in 2014. So the values are going to be well outdated, especially now with the boom and rise in Negro League card prices over the last year or two, like I said. So the good part is the values that are in there are comparable to values of all the other cards that are in there as well. So if nothing else, you can get an idea of which cards and which players are the higher dollar cards and players compared to the lesser value, even though the numbers themselves are maybe way off. If something says 100 to 200 and somebody else is 5,000 to 10,000, there's a very big difference, and you can obviously tell, which is going to be more valuable, even if those numbers are not correct today. So I'm going to start my first, using that format, I'm going to start with my first player alphabetically, which is Eufemio Abreu. All these guys, again, played in the Negro Leagues at some point. And I apologize. I'm not going to have committed to memory 450 player bios and information. So the bio information I'm going to be reading out of, I have a Negro League biographical encyclopedia, so I'm going to be reading little excerpts from there. I'm not going to be able to memorize all that. So first player, Eufemio Abreu. He played 15 years total in the Negro Leagues. He would be what I would call one of the more obscure guys, not a big name. He was primarily a catcher. He also played other positions out on the field other than pitcher. Um, he played for the Cuban Stars West. The Negro League Cuban Stars had a division which they called West, the division East, and then later on in the 30s they sort of merged into one Cuban Stars team. So West meant primarily like Midwest, East meant primarily like New York, East Coast area, and then the combined team in the 30s was just called the Cuban Stars. So he played for the all three versions, the Cuban Stars West, Cuban Stars East, and the Cuban Stars into the 30s. He began his career in 1919 with the Cuban Stars West, and his career ran until 1934. So, like I said, 15 years, primarily catcher, played a few other positions. He was noted more for defense, was not a significant threat batting, and um, also played winter ball for several seasons in his native country of Cuba, where he was from, um, during that same time period. So Abreu, we're going to look at, I believe it's 3 cards. We're going to see the pictures of and talk about. So that's pretty good. The first card we're going to look at is the 1923 to 24. We sort of lost it there. 23 to 24. It's called Beacon. It's a tobacco company out of Cuba. They're the ones that issued these cards in tobacco products such as cigarettes and cigars. That's a little better. They came out during the 23-24 Winter League season. Most of these cards are going to have dates which encompass 2 years because Winter League usually ended up being, like I said, October to February, so you overlapped 2 different calendar years. So 23-24 Beacon, Eufemio Abreu in Cuba. He's got a big H on his jersey. H was Habana, which was one of the 4 professional Cuban baseball teams that played at that time. So he played for Habana. And the backs of these had tobacco advertising. I don't have the backs to show. But they had advertising for tobacco products on the back. These are not blank backs. Um, and very rare set. All these 20s tobaccos sets from Cuba are going to be very rare. The pop report on something like this is probably somewhere in the 5 range. Some of them may be more up to 10 even. A lot of them might only be 1 or 2. So very hard to find these. Not only would they have to survive 100 years, but they would also have to make it here to the U.S. to mainstream card collectors from Cuba. And we all know the issues with Cuba getting stuff to the U.S. over the years and over the decades. So Euphemio Abreu is the first one. Next one up is going to be, uh, sorry, um, that's a little better. Um, it's going to be Abreu again. This time he's pictured on a 1923 to 24 Nacionales card. Nacionales was another Cuban tobacco company. So again, producing for packages of cigars and cigarettes. Same Habana team. It's really light in the video here, but he has an H on his cap. Same ball club, same season, just a different tobacco company producing it. That one is also a low pop, probably in the 5 to 10 range. Next up, we have a Tomas Gutierrez, again 23-24, Abreu. So again from Cuba, you see the H on the cap, same Habana team. And another rare card. Backs of these would also have Tomas Gutierrez advertising on there. They also sold Diaz cigarettes, which might be a card brand more familiar. They printed some of those in U.S. players in 23-24 as well. So those are the 3 Euphemio Abreu cards that we're going to look at. The next player that we're going to cover is Raul Alvarez. Raul Alvarez was, I would say, is even more obscure than Abreu. He did not play as long in the Negro leagues and did not accomplish as much. He played from 1924 to 1933. He was a pitcher. He also played on the Cuban Stars clubs, both the West and the East, as well as the 31-32 Cuban Stars after they combined both into one team. He played on the same ball clubs for the most part as Abreu, being a pitcher and Abreu being a catcher. They were probably battery mates some of the time during those seasons as well. One note I have for Alvarez, he played in 3 different Negro leagues. He played in the Negro National League, which was the first formal Negro league established in 1920 by Rube Foster. He played in the Eastern Colored League, which was the second major Negro league established in the mid-20s, sort of a rival to the Negro National League. And then he played in the East-West League in the 30s, which was with the Cuban Stars, the combined ball club. So Alvarez, I believe we only have 1 card to look at for him. And okay, so Alvarez, we have it's a 1927 to 28 Mallorquina. This one is not a tobacco set; it's actually a caramel candy set. Extremely rare, more rare than the tobacco cards that we talked about with Abreu. So these populations are oftentimes 1 or 2. There's a couple of uncut sheets of these known. There was 100 cards in the set, so the uncut sheet had 100 cards on it. These were very similar to the 1930 Bagur or Bauger chocolates. more familiar to card collectors with U.S. players like Babe Ruth pictured. They're extremely small. They're not square as the Bangor chocolates are. They're more of a rectangle shape, but very tiny. This is Alvarez. He also played with Habana. You can see the H on his jersey from Cuba. And another rare low pop card. Next player we're going to look at is probably one who may be a little more familiar to collectors here, Sandy Amoros. Amoros actually played a few Major League Baseball seasons with the Brooklyn Dodgers, as well as several years in the minor leagues for the Brooklyn Dodgers minor league system. I think Nashua was one of the minor league clubs he played at. But Amoros played one Negro League season, 1950. That was at the very end of the Negro Leagues after Jackie had already made it to Brooklyn. He played for the New York Cubans in 1950. Minor leagues from the 52 to 54 and 58 to 59. And he played for the Dodgers briefly in 52 was his first appearance. 54, he came up also for a very brief appearance. His first full season was 55, which matched the year that the Dodgers won the championship. And Amoros was actually most famous for catching a ball off the bat of Yogi Berra that looked like it was headed for a double or triple that basically saved the game for the Dodgers. And he also played there in 59 and 60. He was an outfielder. Played some first base when he was with the Cubans in the Negro Leagues in 1950. One season there, he batted 338 for the New York Cubans. And he played winters in Cuba. Again, he played for the same Havana ball club. He won the Cuban batting title in 52 to 53 with a 373 batting average. Beginning in 51 in Cuba, he batted 286, 333, 373, 322, and 307. So lifetime batting average in Cuba was 330. So had an excellent bat playing winter ball and some decent seasons with the Brooklyn Dodgers as well. So not going to show his Major League Baseball cards. We're going to look at his Negro League and Winter League cards. So we've got 1951 to 52. Again, this is from Cuba, and we're looking at the card in the middle of the page right now. So 51, 52. The camera's not really cooperating. Okay. 51, 52, Genti. Genti was a premium. So these were oversized. These were about 5x7 or 5x8 maybe. Pictures. These were from Cuba and extremely rare. Probably less than 5 known on most of these. And Amoros appears in there with the Habana Club again. And the other Amoros card, we have 2 of them. So the other one is a 52 to 53 Victoria set, which was a Cuban tobacco company. So again, he appears in the Habana uniform during the 52-53 winter ball season. And these are also very scarce. And these may be population somewhere closer to 10. So not quite as rare as the Gentis or the Mallarquina that we looked at before, but very hard to find. And these would predate Amoros's major league cards with the Dodgers. Okay, the next player we're going to look at then is somebody who's even probably more obscure than Eufemio Abreu, Luis Arango. Luis Arango played 14 seasons in the Negro Leagues. Again, he played with the Cuban Stars, the West, the East, as well as the New York Cubans in the late 30s, 35 to 39. The New York Cubans during that mid 30s or late 30s period also had Martin Dihigo, well known Cuban Hall of Fame ball player who starred for them. So Arango played all together from 25 to 39. He played first base, third base, and shortstop, so basically an infielder with those Cuban Stars clubs. He was a good hitter with some power, usually batted in the middle of the order. And he helped Cienfuegos in the Cuban League winter ball. He helped the Cienfuegos team, which is one of the four professional Cuban winter league teams, win the league championship in the 1929 to 30 season. So Arango has one card we're going to look at here. He's in the bottom corner here. And that's the 1946 to 47 Caramello Deportivo card. These are black and white. They produced a set in 45, 46. This is for the 46, 47. The second year. They are harder to find than the first series, the 45, 46. These are made out of extremely thin paper and very condition sensitive. Almost all the ones that would be graded from the set would be ones. Occasionally, a two would be a higher grade. Maybe a 2.5 or a 3 is probably about the highest you would ever find. Most of these came with albums that were glued into them, so they had to be removed, and the back damage that occurs with that usually drops the card automatically to either an authentic or a 1. So Luis Arango, Caramello Deportivo, that was a caramel card or a candy card from the 40s, also from Cuba. Okay. And we're going to look at one more player today, which is Gene Baker. He might be another name that's a little more familiar because Gene Baker played in the major leagues as well. He came up with the Chicago Cubs in the 53-54 time frame, just about the same time Ernie Banks, who played for the Kansas City Monarchs in the Negro Leagues, came up to Chicago and signed with the Cubs. Gene Baker came aboard very close proximity to the Ernie Banks signing. But before that, Gene Baker played from 48 to 50 in the Negro League. So again, the very end of the Negro League time. He also played with the Kansas City Monarchs during those seasons. He played in the Chicago minor league system from 50 to 53. And then he played with the Cubs from 53 to 58, and then also 60 to 61. He was an middle infielder, primarily second baseman. Banks played mostly shortstop when he came up. So they were a double play combination for the Cubs. And he played in the Pacific Coast League between 50 and 53 mainly, and batted 280, 278, 260, and 284 before he joined the Cubs in 53. So Baker also had some major league cards. We're not going to look at those. We're just going to look at his Winter League and Negro League cards. So we've got the middle card on the bottom here, which is the 48 to 49 Toleteros, Gene Baker. These were black and white. Some of them look a little more like a sepia and white tone. These were from Puerto Rico. So this is the first issue we're looking at from Puerto Rico. These were produced 3 seasons, 48 to 49. 49-50 was the second year, and then 50-51 was the third season they made those. The 50-51s are in color. The 48 and the 49 issues are black and white. Baker appears in the 48-49. Right next to that, you'll see one that's identical photo, basically a completely identical card. That one is at 49-50. Tolateros, again, Puerto Rico. Gene Baker. Same image, same black and white. 48, 49, 49, 50. There's not too much difference as far as scarcity. They're both scarce. Pops on these can be in the 10 range, maybe a little more, sometimes less, depending on how big the player was. And Baker had one other card, also produced in Puerto Rico. Um, it's not really showing up good, but it's okay because I don't have a picture of that card. It's so scarce that I was not even able to find an image of it. But it's 50-51 Dania, which was another Winter League issue. Those are even tougher to find than the Tolateros that we just looked at. So that one is just a no image available. So that's going to wrap up today's episode. Taking our first look at minor league players, we got to look at about five guys or so, and a total of 10 cards or 9 cards plus one that I didn't have an image for. Next time we'll continue with another little group of cards and some more players. Hope it was some useful learning information there. And again, I apologize. Some of the bio material I have to read out of the book because I have not had it memorized. And also for the images in the book, some of them are a little bit light and it's hard to get the camera to focus. I wish I had the actual cards I could show you for all these. That would be ideal, but I don't. So rather than skipping it and not producing the video and presenting the material, I figure it's better to show images from the book rather than nothing. So, hope you guys enjoyed it and have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next one.